Senator Hoffman.
Madam President, further proceedings be dispensed with, and I ask the Sergeant at Arms to please bring in those absentee senators so we can get business done, Madam President.
On that motion, all those in favor say aye. Opposed say nay. The ayes have it. I did too. Secretary will close the roll. Remaining under motions and resolutions, Senator Dames, House File 3255.
Well, thank you, Madam President and members. We have Senate File 30 or House File 3255, and Madam President, I have the A2 amendment, which is a delete all amendment, to get the bill in the order that I would like to present it.
The Secretary will report the amendment.
Senator Dames moves to amend House File number 3255 as amended pursuant to Rule 45 adopted by the Senate as follows: delete everything after the enacting clause and insert. This is the A2 amendment.
Senator Dames.
Thank you, Madam President. The A2 amendment is a culmination of various individual bills that we've heard on the floor, and we've put them together under one bill. And so if we want to move the bill, and Madam President, I'll go through the bill.
Any further discussion on the amendment? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, same sign. Motion prevails. Senator Dames.
Thank you, Madam President. Like I said, this bill is a culmination of several bills. First, I'd just like to kind of go through a summary here. The bill includes the Commerce Supplemental Budget Bill. We had an $8 million target, and that's what is in this bill. Appropriation is $8 million. Of that, there's $870,000 a year for fraud staffing. There's $525,000 a year for the insurance division staffing, and $300,000 a year for the security staffing. Also, we're going to have the financial institutions account, which will reduce the amount of money from the assessments from the financial institutions going into the general fund, and that'll be moved over to the financial institutions account. So in order to do that and make the general fund whole, we'll be putting in $783,000 into the general fund. So that would be the appropriations part of it. If you remember last week, we had a bill on the floor. It's called the Market Conduct Exams Bill. And I know there were some questions at that time on this bill because not everything was worked out. And I felt that if I put the bill in front of the body and we passed the bill out, that might bring everybody back to the table. We did get people back to the table, and there has been some agreements on the market conduct stuff. There were some pieces where we could not come up to an agreement. Those have been removed from the bill. We've also added some pieces. One was in the affinity groups. We've been dealing with that now for a while. And so the language that was agreed upon by the Department of Commerce with the insurance industry and the other players on the affinity groups is approved language. There's also a piece in the bill that deals with some banking regulations, and that was Senate File 3049. That was Senator Johnson's bill, and that addresses a gap in the Minnesota treatment for collateral securing a federally chartered home loan bank when lending to a Minnesota-based insurance company. The Department of Commerce and the federally chartered home loan banks have come to an agreement, and so the language of that agreement is in this bill. There's also parts in here are the Department technical bill. They're also in this bill is the bill of Senate File 4192, which was the bill that was presented, the agreement made between the Minnesota Auto Dealers Association and the manufacturers, the automobile manufacturers, to allow for the sale of electric vehicles. In the current franchise agreement, the statutes will be changed so that the language in the statute will reflect that agreement. Also in this bill is part of this bill has to do with a bill that Senator Cran had, and that was a preliminary applications licensing bill, and that was where if somebody wanted to go into a profession but was not sure with their background, they could get licensed. They could do a pre-licensing application and see if they would get accepted, and if they would pay the fee in order to find that out. And then if they went to school and got their license or went to school to become in that area, then when they applied to get their license, that would be deducted from that. And that was a Senator Cran bill. And members, that pretty much picks up what's in this bill. So at this point, I'll open it up for questions.
Any further discussion? Senator Port.
Thank you, Madam President. This is essentially a commerce omnibus bill, which we did not have in the Senate. And I think if we would have had one of those earlier in this process, it would have given us an opportunity to hear all of these bills, to discuss all of these bills. Some of these weren't heard in the Senate, didn't get votes here. And it didn't give us an opportunity to add provisions that are important to everyone in the Senate, like price gouging, for instance, that 55 of us voted just 2 days ago was urgent, and we still have not taken up on the floor. That said, this is a good bill for consumers in Minnesota. It addresses some of the departments that Commerce runs about consumer protection, about fraud protection. It fully funds those, which is vital for Minnesotans actually having protections against consumer fraud. So for that reason, I support this bill, and I do recommend a green vote.
Is there further discussion? Seeing none, the Secretary will give House File 3255 its third reading.
House File Number 3255, a bill for an act relating to commerce making technical changes to various provisions administered by the Department of Commerce.
Third reading. Final statements for the bill. Senator Ames.
Well, thank you, Madam President, and I would just urge a green vote on this bill. Thank you.
The Secretary will take the roll on final passage. I call on Senator Port to report those voting under Rule 40.7.
Thank you, Madam President. I report an aye for Senator Dietzich.
Aye for Senator Dietzich. Senator Port.
I report an aye for Senator Kent.
Aye for Senator Kent. Senator Port.
I report an aye for Senator Klein.
Aye for Senator Klein. Senator Port.
I report an aye for Senator Newton.
Aye for Senator Newton. Senator Port.
I report an aye for Senator Wickland.
Wickland votes aye. Senator Port.
And I report an aye for Senator Dibble.
Aye for Senator Dibble. Senator Port. Thank you. Senator Port.
Thank you, Madam President. I report an aye for Senator Marty.
Senator Marty votes aye. Senator Jasinski.
Thank you, Madam President. Senator Anderson votes aye.
Senator Anderson votes aye. Senator Jasinski.
Senator Goggin votes aye.
Senator Goggin votes aye. Senator Jasinski.
Senator Housley votes aye.
Senator Housley votes aye. Jasinski.
Senator Ingebrigtsen votes aye.
Senator Ingebrigtsen votes aye. Senator Jasinski.
Senator Tomasoni votes aye.
Senator Tomasoni votes aye. Senator Jasinski.
Senator Rarick votes aye.
Senator Rarick votes aye. Senator Jasinski.
And thank you, Madam President. Senator Newman votes aye.
Senator Newman votes aye. Senator Jasinski.
Thank you, Madam President. Senator Matthews votes aye.
Senator Matthews votes aye. There being 67 nays and no, Secretary will close the roll. There being 67 ayes, 0 nays, the bill is passed and its title agreed to. Next, Senator Daines, House File 3775.
Thank you, Madam President. I move that the amendment made to House File 3775 by the Committee on Rules and Administration in the report adopted on May 21st, 22, pursuant to Rule 45, be stricken.
On that motion, Senator Daines.
Well, thank you, Madam President. And the reason that I'm substituting Senate File or House File 3775 for Senate File 3242 is the Senate file has the wrong date and the House file has the right date. And what this bill does is it changes the amount of time that the corporations have to file some reports. Currently, it reads that they file a report within 120 days after the end of their fiscal year, and this would change it so that they file within 12 months following the registration date of their original registration. So it's a simple commerce technical bill, and I'll take any questions.
Discussion? On that motion, all those in favor say aye. All opposed say no. Motion prevails. Amendment is adopted. Any more discussion? Seeing none, Secretary will give the bill its third reading.
House File Number 3775, a bill for an act relating to commerce.
Third reading. Any further discussion? The Secretary will take the roll on Senate File 3775, House File 3775. Reminding members we're under roll call. I call on Senator Jasinski to report those voting under Rule 40.7.
Thank you, Madam President. Senator Anderson votes aye.
Anderson votes aye. Senator Jasinski.
Senator Goggin votes aye.
Goggin votes aye. Senator Jasinski.
Senator Housley votes aye.
Senator Housley votes aye. Senator Jasinski.
Senator Ingebrigtsen votes aye.
Ingebrigtsen votes aye. Senator Jasinski.
Senator Tomasoni votes aye.
Senator Tomasoni votes aye. Senator Jasinski.
Senator Newman votes aye.
Senator Newman votes aye.
Senator Limmer votes aye.
Senator Limmer votes aye. Senator Jasinski. Thank you. Senator Report.
Thank you, Madam President. I report an aye for Senator Dietzich,
Aye for Senator Dietzich. Senator Report.
an aye for Senator Kent,
Aye for Senator Kent. Senator Report.
an aye for Senator Klein,
Aye for Senator Klein. Senator Report.
an aye for Senator Newton,
Aye for Senator Newton.
an
Senator
aye
Report.
for Senator Wickland,
Aye for Senator Wickland. Senator Report.
an aye for Senator Fateh.
An aye for Senator Pate. Senator Report.
Thank you, Madam President. An aye for Senator Dibble.
Senator Dibble votes aye. Thank you. Secretary will close the roll. There being 67 ayes and 0 nays, the bill has passed and its title agreed to.
Remaining under motions and resolutions, we revert to the third order of business, messages from the House. The Secretary will read the message.
Mr. President, I have the honor to announce that the House has adopted the recommendation and report of the Conference Committee in House File Number 3420 and repassed said bill in accordance with the report of the committee so adopted. House File Number 3420, a bill for an act relating to drought relief. House File Number 3420 is herewith transmitted to the Senate. Patrick D. Murphy, Chief Clerk, House of Representatives.
Senator Westrom.
Thank you, Mr. President. Members, this conference report is the agriculture farmer drought relief bill that we passed out, and the conference report is coming back with the farmer drought relief, the agriculture and rural broadband portions of the bill that were also passed off this floor a few weeks ago. Mr. President, members, let me first start by thanking our conferees that helped pull this together as we work through these last few weeks of session. Senator Weber, Senator Dames, Senator Lang, and Senator Eakin. Thank you for your contributions. And members, also thanks to our staff. We put in some late hours getting these put together. I know DFL Jackie Clinton, our Senate counsel, Hannah Grunwald and Laura Painter. Thank you for your efforts, as well as our Republican staff, committee legislative assistant Ben Abrahamson, committee administrator Joel Hansen, and Republican research Andrew Larson. Those are the folks that help bring all of this together, and when we even have deals, there's still many hours of work left to do to bring all of this together, and I guess I'd be remiss not thanking the revisor's office as well for their work on this. Members, this is a very good bill for farmers, for agriculture, for rural Minnesota. This supplemental bill, first of all, dealing with the drought relief.
Senator Westrom.
Thank you, Mr. President.
Senator Westrom, before we move on, Senator Westrom moves the adoption of the Conference Committee report. Senator Westrom.
Thank you, Mr. President. Members, the ag drought relief, as you all know, we've come to agreement with the House. We passed off the floor a $10 million package. The House had $23 million in theirs, with $13 million going to the DNR for some tree drought relief as well. The end product was 18.1 million members as well, or 18.4 million, excuse me. 13.1 towards agriculture, emergency response and drought relief, and 5.3 towards tree seedlings and drought relief with the DNR. That's how it'll break down. To hit a few highlights of the farmer drought relief, members, 8.1 million will be, the bulk of the money will go towards farmer grants, up to $7,500 for expenses that farmers faced, having to buy in extra forage, bring it in from further away, or find ways to get their livestock fed, or deal with the specialty crops that they raised and the loss that they had. They will have to prove that on their application through the Department of Agriculture. Up to $7,500 will be a shot in the arm for them. Most cases, it will be just a fraction of the kind of loss and what they've had to experience and to get through the drought and the issues they've had with trying to have enough feed for their livestock. 2.5 members to the RFA through low interest loans, as well as money for the emergency response fund in the Department of Agriculture with the avian influenza that's hit our state back in March. They are just about out of money at the Department of Agriculture. So members, this is timely to make sure they can continue having a solid response for our farmers that have been hit with avian influenza. We're up to 3 million birds they've had to euthanize, over at least 24 counties that have had farmers impacted in those areas. And as you remember, we passed $1 million in urgency or emergency response just before the Easter recess. That money is just about out, and so this money is needed in a timely manner. There's $3 million total. When we get into the ag section, I'll highlight that as well. And so members, also $1 million for the VDL Veterinary Diagnostic Lab, which is where a lot of these tests go. Some of the equipment is not as fast as it needs to be, and this will update, expand their capacity. And so when viruses or situations like the avian influenza hit, we can respond to those tests even faster and know where the outbreak is hitting. So members, I urge your support on this part of the bill, as well as agriculture. At $7.5 million, members, hit some of the highlights of this supplemental part of the bill. We are still doing things for helping expanding the meat processing in the state of Minnesota, both with new grants to some high schools, ag departments that have been asking for one-time assistance in buying some meat cutting equipment so they can add this into their agriculture curriculum and start teaching our high school students this career opportunity, feeding into the college career opportunities that we started last year that 2 colleges now in central and north central Minnesota have taken up. And so folks, as we respond to the need for meat processing and issues that came out of COVID became very much more apparent to us to feed our states, our citizens, and the country. We are leading in that way with meat processing. We also have targeted some additional dollars to bio incentives. Members, on one hand, it's kind of a mixed catch-22, if you will. For several years, we had bio incentive accounts that had extra money year after year. And we now have a situation where we have bio incentive companies, big and small, that have met the challenge we've put out there to develop more and new ways for bioenergies, biochemicals made out of wood pulp or wood or other types of bioproducts right here in Minnesota. Renewable products, much like biofuels. And that account has been strained because there's more development that's come along the last 2-3 years. And so we've got 1.25 million additional supplemental money into that. The language in the ag section will also stop those payments as of next April. So companies that are coming online, there's a talk of some that have been looking to come, but this would close it and grandfather those in after April. But given the account is taxed or spent out, we agreed to the House with some compromise language that most of the bio incentives going forward would be halted, except for smaller companies that used to be eligible prior to the 2019 changes that we made. I won't get into that. It's a little more complicated, but basically we referred back to the language of before 2019. And intentionally, I think this is going to be an issue the Ag Committee and we will deal with in the finance budget next year. And we kind of wanted to keep everybody moving forward, the prosperity, the expansion of biofuels and bioincentives, bioproducts in Minnesota. But we do need to deal with this issue and make sure those that are in it can keep whole, and we can't promise to more that we may not have the money for. So members, those are some highlights in the ag section of the bill. We do put additional dollars into the emergency response under this $7.5 million. We do some updates in technology, one-time updates for the Department of Agriculture, some dollars towards the emerging farmers, that some of that language passed off the Senate floor at $300,000. We're at $800,000 in here. And lastly, some one-time money for farmers with down payment assistance if they're buying a tract of land or getting into agriculture with up to a $15,000 loan or forgivable loan that as long as they stay in agriculture, it would turn into a grant over a period of 5 years. So those were some provisions we worked out with the House. Chair Sundin, I appreciate our efforts to be able to hammer this out. Commissioner Tom Peterson was very instrumental in helping pull this together, members. And so those are some highlights of this. Lastly, but certainly not least, members, this bill is very good for rural broadband, border-to-border connections, for the entire state of Minnesota to be connected. And we have all talked about the need for speed, the need to connect the unserved areas and the underserved areas in Minnesota. We have been nation leading, and let's be proud of that here in Minnesota. You know, it's been said that the internet is the new town square, and I think it would be hard to dispute that, except if you don't have it. And members, there's still about 8% of the state that is not connected to high-speed internet. And many of those areas are in my district in central and western Minnesota and all over the state. It's more rural than metro, but there's even areas around the metro, in the edges of the metro, that have the same problem we have as in western Minnesota, northern Minnesota. And so, members, this bill does the biggest investment in state history in rural broadband of $210 million. $50 million in general fund, 25 this year, 25 over the next biennium, and $160 million of the federal money that the state, one-time money that we are receiving, will be targeted and go into the border-to-border program to finish or go a long ways on finishing connecting broadband and the border-to-border across the state of Minnesota. We can be proud of that. We have a lot to tell our citizens and our constituents. We have been listening to your concerns, And those of you that have had to drive to McDonald's or the local library or some other place to have your kids do their homework, or you haven't been able to work from home even though your company or job might allow you, or you can't connect to the markets on your farm, this is what kind of investment we are going to put into this to make that a reality. The economic development opportunities for rural Minnesota are great and significant when we get them connected. Many of you have heard me talk before. This is like modern day electricity. 80 years ago, electricity was that big of a boom to the rural areas of the state. Connecting to the internet is a big boom today. And so we have a historic investment with the federal dollars and the state dollars that we're augmenting. I want to thank all the groups that worked with us on this to help make this possible. But this is a bill we can be very proud of, using those federal dollars wisely, responding to COVID, responding to other issues that we know have existed with underserved and unserved broadband areas. And so, members, I think this is a bill that we can support with great pride and be proud to say we are able to connect the state with $210 million. And so, members, help this become a reality for your constituents, for your residents and constituents that use telehealth, work from home, or students need to be educated over the online education options. And so with that, Mr. President, I would stand for questions.
Senator Westrom renews his motion that the foregoing recommendations and conference committee report of House File 3420 be now adopted and the bill be repassed as amended by conference committee. Any further discussion to the motion on the conference committee? Senator Hoffman.
Thank you, Mr. President. Will Senator Westrom yield for a question?
He will. Senator Hoffman.
Thank you, Mr. President. And in the honor of the good senator from Rochester, who I believe needs to say a couple of words on this, there's been a tradition. And Senator Westrom, if you could please, did I hear you say drought? And when you said drought, I think the thing that fixes drought is water. Is that correct, Mr. Senator Westrom?
Senator Westrom.
Mr. President, Senator Hoffman, water is a good solution for a drought. Yes, that's correct.
Senator Hoffman.
Thank you, Senator Westrom. And Mr. President, with that, I would yield a question to Senator Senjum, please. Senator Senjum.
Senator Senjum will. Senator Senjum, what would you like to say about water?
Thank you, Mr. President. Members, Senator Westrom, we all know that you can always make a bill just a little bit better. And I've got an amendment here. I know that we're not supposed to amend these conference report, but I think we can with the vote of 45 people. And so you might consider this. So, Mr. President, I have the A50 amendment.
The Secretary won't report the amendment to the A50 amendment, Senator Senjum.
Well, thank you very kindly, Mr. President. So I must just offer that, Senator Westrom, we could have made this bill a lot better with the sprinkler amendment on it. And as we all know, sprinkler pipes contain water. Water supplies agriculture, and all is well after that. But maybe next year, Senator Westrom, when you do your bill, maybe you can put this sprinkler amendment in it, and it will be just a little bit better.
Senator Westrom to the non-A50 amendment.
Mr. President and Senator Senjum, we could have gotten the sprinkler in, but we couldn't get a permit from the DNR to put water to the sprinklers. So.
All those in favor of adopting the conference committee report signify by saying aye. Those opposed, the motion does prevail. The Secretary will give the bill its third reading.
House File Number 3420, a bill for an act relating to drought relief.
Third reading. Any further discussion? Seeing none, the Secretary will take the roll on House File 3420 as amended by conference committee. I call on Senator Port to report members voting under Rule 40.7. Senator Port.
Thank you, Mr. President. I vote an aye from Senator Dietzick.
Dietzick votes aye. Senator Port.
Aye from Senator Kent.
Kent votes aye. Senator Port.
I report an aye from Senator Klein.
Klein votes aye. Senator Port.
I report an aye for Senator Newton.
Newton votes aye. Senator Port.
I report an aye for Senator Wickland.
Wickland votes aye. Senator Port.
I report an aye for Senator Fateh.
Fateh votes aye. Senator Port.
And I report an aye for Senator Dibble.
Dibble votes aye. Call on Senator Jasinski to report members voting under Rule 40.7. Senator Jasinski.
Thank you, Mr. President. Senator Anderson votes aye.
Anderson votes aye. Senator Jasinski.
Senator Goggin votes aye.
Goggin votes aye. Senator Jasinski.
Senator Housley votes aye.
Housley votes aye. Senator Jasinski.
Senator Ingebrigtsen votes aye.
Ingebrigtsen votes aye. Senator Jasinski.
Senator Newman votes aye.
Newman votes aye. Senator Jasinski.
Senator Thomasoni votes aye.
Thomasoni votes aye. Senator Jasinski.
Thank you, Mr. President. Senator Limmer votes aye.
Limmer votes aye. All members having voted, the Secretary will close the roll. There being 66 ayes and 1 nay, House File 3420, as amended by Conference Committee, is adopted and its title agreed to. Next, we have an additional Conference Committee report. The Secretary will read the report.
Mr. President, I have the honor to announce that the House has adopted the recommendation and report of the Conference Committee on House File number 3765 and repassed said bill in accordance with the report of the committee. So adopted, House File number 3765, a bill for an act relating to natural resources, is herewith transmitted to the Senate. Patrick D. Murphy, Chief Clerk, House of Representatives.
Senator Westrom moves that the foregoing recommendations of the Conference Committee report on House File 3765 be now adopted and the bill be repassed as amended by Conference Committee. Senator Westrom.
Mr. President, catch me up. Do I need to make the motion, or did you just make it?
All taken care of.
Mr. President, members, this is the Environmental Trust Fund bill we passed earlier this week off the Senate floor. Members, I'm happy to announce we have an agreement with the House, Senator Hansen and the 3 conferees from the House and the 3 conferees from the Senate. We came up with this agreement on the LCCMR bill. Members, it's a good bill, covers 80 projects across the state of Minnesota, expends the $70 million from the trust fund proceeds that are paid in every year for these environmental projects. Just to hit a few of them, we've got cover crops, we've got projects that deal with pollinators that I know some in the House and others here that are interested in. Members, we also have projects that deal with a lot of trails, development, and members, one of the issues that came on the One of the issues that some members had before we passed it off was more land purchases. Members, this bill only deals with easements if a trail is being developed. The House agreed to the language to keep out land acquisitions, and so this will be for maintenance, this will be for trail development, but it will be easements and property stays in fee simple, private fee simple, not more public taking or purchasing of land. And so members, I think we can be proud of this bill. And lastly, if you think you're in question of whether this is a good bill to support or not, there was 119 votes yes in the House of Representatives yesterday when it passed. So I want to thank our conferees, thank our staff who also worked so hard late into the nights this last 2 days to get this done. And members, they're the ones that really put in the long hours after we come to the agreement. And also thanks to Chair Rick Hansen. We were able to work this out Friday and Saturday, and so I'm glad we were able to come to an agreement, members, for the LCCMR. And if there's any questions, Mr. President, I'd be happy to answer.
To the adoption of the Conference Committee report. Seeing no further discussion, all those in favor of adoption of the Conference Committee report signify by saying aye. Those opposed, the motion does prevail. The Conference Committee report is adopted. The Secretary will give the bill its third reading.
House File number 3765, a bill for an act relating to natural resources.
Third reading. Any further discussion? Senator Herr.
Mr. President, I'm honored to be one of the members of the Senate Conference. I have been here 10 years, and this is probably the first time I work on LCCMR, and also a member of LCCMR as well. Although my 10 years, this is probably a precedent that we put new project into the LCCMR, but I'm glad that there's peace in the valley. I suppose peace in the valley happened because there's a project that are in my district, the Pig's Eye landfill, and I'd like to thank Senator Westrom for putting that in, but gratitude could come both way too, because the Pig's Eye landfill actually one of the projects that helped neutralize and bring peace to the valley. The Pig's Eye landfill is a moniker of the first settler here in the St. Paul, the first European settler here in St. Paul, live among the native, the Kaposha tribe, and we have so much possibility, opportunity to clean up the Pig's Eye landfill to turn into regional park and to feed into the wildlife, the vast wildlife we have here in Minnesota, whether it is trumpeter swamp or other source of wildlife. So again, I will vote for green for this bill, and thank you, Senator Westrom and other members in the LCCMR. Thank you.
Further discussion? Seeing none, the Secretary will take the roll on House File 3765 as amended by Conference Committee. Call on Senator Port to report members voting under Rule 40.7. Senator Port.
Thank you, Mr. President. I report an aye for Senator Dietzig.
Dietzig votes aye. Senator Port.
I report an aye for Senator Kent.
Kent votes aye. Senator Port.
I report an aye for Senator Klein.
Klein votes aye. Senator Port.
I report an aye for Senator Newton.
Newton votes aye. Senator Port.
I report an aye for Senator Wickland.
Wickland votes aye. Senator Port.
I report an aye for Senator Fateh.
Fateh votes aye. Senator Port.
And I report an aye for Senator Dibble.
Dibble votes aye. Calling Senator Jasinski to report members voting under Rule 40.7. Senator Jasinski.
Thank you, Mr. President. Senator Anderson votes aye.
Anderson votes aye. Senator Jasinski.
Senator Goggin votes aye.
Goggin votes aye. Senator Jasinski.
Senator Housley votes aye.
Housley votes aye. Senator Jasinski.
Senator Ingebrigtsen votes aye.
Ingebrigtsen votes aye. Senator Jasinski.
Senator Limmer votes aye.
Limmer votes aye. Senator Jasinski.
Thank you, Mr. President. Senator Thomasoni votes aye.
Thomasoni votes aye. All members having voted, the secretary will close the roll. There being 67 ayes and no nays, House File 3765 as amended by Conference Committee is adopted and its title agreed to. Remaining under motions and resolutions, Senator Bigham.
Mr. President, I'm going to move a recess to the call of the president. Members, I'm going to say, what, about 30 minutes, then we come back, get this done?
Senator Miller.
I was going to ask Senator Bigham, thank you, Mr. President, about how long she was planning, and I would recommend maybe closer to an hour, Senator Bigham, maybe closer to 7 p.m.
Senator Bigham, what do you think about an hour?
Is that how long it takes to get the amendment for legalizing sports wagering done?
Oh. Seeing no further discussion, all those in favor of the motion to recess to the call of president signify by saying aye. Those opposed, motion does prevail. Senate is in recess.